Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts back once again with another video for you guys. Today guys, I'm doing a book review on the channel. The first time I've ever done this on the channel. Today I'm reviewing the book I just finished a couple days ago, The Flash, The Haunting of Barry Allen. This is actually part one of a two-part story that continues on Arrow, A Generation of Vipers. This book is a little over 400 pages. I honestly didn't really notice it because I just kept wanting to read more and more and more. And so now, here are my thoughts. If you're a fan of the Arrowverse, particularly to The Flash, I would say you would find some enjoyment in this book, in my personal opinion. I'm actually going to read the synopsis of the book, basically, to give you guys kind of an idea of what to expect from this. Speeding through Central City, Barry Allen is met with a startling sight. The Flash, older, battered, and badly injured. Before he can speak, the doppelganger is gone. Then Barry begins experiencing glitches in his powers, moments that leave him ghostly and immobile in the middle of missions. When a group of his enemies, including Pied Piper, Weather Wizard, and Peekaboo, chooses this time to launch a new assault, the Flash seeks help from his most trusted ally, Oliver Queen, the Arrow. One of the main things I was focusing on while reading this book was, does this feel like The Flash? Does it feel like the show? Does it feel like an episode, well, in this case, a long episode of The Flash? Does it feel that way? In my personal opinion, for the most part, yes it does. I overall had a great time reading this book. I thought it was a pretty good story in my personal opinion, and what I like about the synopsis on the back is that it gives you enough information to kind of understand where this story may go, but there are some things they don't tell you, and that's what surprised me the most, is some of the things in here that you're not expecting, that I wasn't expecting. With this being titled The Flash, and I'm assuming the same thing's going to happen in Arrow, A Generation of Vipers, I haven't really dived in too much into this one yet, but this is more of a Flash story. Of course, there's crossover between Green Arrow and all that, but it's more of a Flash story. So if you're a big Arrow fan, I think you'll find some enjoyment here, but you may end up liking this more. But I would say just in general, if you're looking to pick this up, I recommend picking this one up as well, A Generation of Vipers Part 2, because for me, I can't wait to dive into Part 2 because I need to know where this is going. I want to thank the two authors who wrote this book, which is Susan and Clay Griffith, because I feel like they captured the Flash pretty well in terms of the show and these characters and explaining the world that we're in within Central City. I think they did a pretty damn good job. I do have a couple things to say about some of the dialogue, but I think mostly overall in terms of direction of the story, handling these characters a certain way, and their dialogue for the most part, good stuff. To some critiques I have about this book. Number one, there are a lot of chapters in this book. That's not really an issue, but the thing is, some of these chapters could have easily been removed entirely in terms of we really didn't need to know a lot of this information, but it kind of makes sense from the point of view they're trying to go with in terms of some of these chapters. But maybe they could have found a way to incorporate it into somewhere else in the story, or maybe just have it be a part of another chapter entirely. I'm not really sure. It just feels like sometimes they're just adding a chapter here and here just to kind of flesh it out and make it even longer when it really doesn't need to be in some areas. But I get the understanding of why they were trying to do it, because this book does follow multiple point of views. But I just feel like sometimes they could have maybe made a different choice in terms of that direction about certain POVs, and do we really need to know this certain amount of information at this point? But that's just me. Critique number two. And this is few and far between, but I have to make this statement. I have to be honest. There are a couple of times where a word is used by a character or a certain way a character says something that doesn't come across to me as genuine, like the character would say that in the show. And the fact this is based off the show The Flash, that's where I have an issue, because it's like, this is not like Barry Allen from the comics and it's just some sort of story that someone's telling. They're basing this off the television show with these actors that are performing these characters and how they're being written for the show. There are just certain moments where I'm like, I don't know if the character would say it that way. But then again, this is a whole new original story that has been done in the show. So I don't know in the context of the story going down on the TV show, if it was adapted to the TV show, if they would say it that way or if they would say this word. There's a certain word that Barry in this book uses, and I'm going to say the word is because it's not really a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. It's actually not a spoiler at all. He says the word wallop. What I was trying to say is I don't think he's ever said that word before in the show. I don't know, but just hearing him say wallop more than once was kind of jarring. The third critique, and I don't consider this a spoiler because if you look at the title, The Flash, and I've already told you that this is more of a Flash story. It is crossover, but it's more Flash. I wish there was more Green Arrow. Just my personal wish. I kind of wish he appeared a little bit sooner in the story, but once he does, I think he's handled pretty well in my personal opinion. I just kind of wish he was a part of it more to make it feel more of like a crossover, because literally I was reading him like, okay, where's he at? Where's he at? Where's he at? And we finally got to him, and I'm like, finally, like literally, finally, we're getting to the crossover. We're getting to this point where the whole point of the cover. As someone who hasn't really sat down and read a book in years, I can't remember the last time I sat down and actually read a book like this. I will say this was a great introduction back into reading, in my personal opinion. Number one, I loved reading when I was growing up, and I love the show The Flash. It has its many issues. We're not here to really talk about that. But as somebody who loves the Arrowverse and loves the Flash and loves these characters and, of course, loves Arrow, this was a great way to bring me back into reading, because I had heard about these books before. I've actually owned these books for a couple of years, both of them. I never got around to reading them. I never got around to doing it because I'm like, I'm going to read them one day because I need to see what these are all about. And I'm glad that I finally, after all these years, have started reading again and checked this book out. In my personal opinion, if you're a fan of The Flash, I think you should pick it up. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to pick this up and start reading it, you've never read it before, you might as well get this. Because if you find any enjoyment with this, you're going to want to jump into the second part immediately, in my personal opinion, based off how this story goes. There's some questions unanswered, as it should be. It's a part 1 to a part 2 story. But yeah, that's my recommendation. So pick up both. That's really my thoughts. Honestly, I just feel at the end of the day, I had a great time reading this story, and I kept thinking about when I can go back and to read some more, and I had other stuff to do, like working my full-time job and playing video games from time to time and making YouTube videos. I just kept thinking about, I just want to get back into reading it, and I finally finished it, and I'm happy because now I have read a full book, and now I could jump into part 2 and really dive into Arrow: A Generation of Vipers. But overall, that is my thoughts about The Flash: The Haunting of Barry Allen. Overall, great story. Some hiccups here, there, some things I kind of wish was a little bit different, but overall, I think you're going to find enjoyment from it. If you have ever liked The Flash, whether you liked it back when it first started, maybe you dropped off, this, I think people are going to find enjoyment out of this if you haven't already. I know some people who are in my comments saying they've already read it, but if you haven't, check it out, my personal opinion. You should check it out. So that's a review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.